Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
I hear you loud and clear, Coach Jay. Welcome back to At the Buzzer.
Welcome to At the Buzzer. Welcome to all of our buzzer beaters. Hopefully, we keep the robots at bay today. We turned them off, but good to have you back, Coach Paul. Looks like we sound good, look good in the chat.
Echoes.
Hearing echoes? Who's hearing echoes?
Someone's Tarek.
Let's see. Shouldn't be any echoes.
Sounds good. The rest of the people. So let's
Okay. Let's get started. Welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If this is our first time meeting, my name is Coach Jay. I've been a Topstep Performance Coach since June of 2023. I've been trading for the past 12 years and in the futures markets for the past 5. And that is Coach Paul. And I'm watching this NASDAQ continue to sell off here, a downside target of 21,423. Coach, I just told you I got out of a short in the NASDAQ. Let's see if it gets
nice
to my
trade.
target. But go ahead and introduce yourself, Coach.
I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep for a year and a half as a performance coach. I'm been involved in the futures industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share my experience and knowledge and assist you in becoming a better trader.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. Let us know how you did in the chat today. It could have been a difficult day depending on the markets that you were trading. Let us know, were you up on the day, down on the day? Maybe you just stayed away and didn't trade at all. Anything that you learned from the day, put that in the chat and let us know. I'm going to pull up the Trader Hub and see what we have as far as news. There was some planned news out today, but the markets were probably waiting for that big one non-farm tomorrow, which is at 7:30 Central Time. We did have jobless claims come out today, 1.871 million. Forecast was 1.9, so better than expected. We had a trade balance number come in better than expected as well at 73.8 billion, and the forecast was negative 75 billion. Not so much as planned news goes. Again, waiting for the numbers tomorrow, Michigan sentiment and non-farm payroll. Anything you have on the news front, Coach?
Just an earthquake in Northern California. I don't know if that triggered the sell-off, but it's right around the same time. Other than that, in equities, I didn't see much news. But
There's
we're
one
still
big news story.
continue to make. What's that?
Bitcoin.
Well,
Spot
that
Bitcoin
was the next one.
finally traded above 100,000. Shout out to all the holders out there of Bitcoin. I know MP had a sell right at 100,000. And he got his fill, and just like a trader, someone asked him about it on the show. He's like, "Oh, have you seen Bitcoin price now?" He's like, "I don't care. I'm out of it." Great trader mindset to have. I'm on to the next one. Let me find the next opportunity. That trade is behind me. I think Spot is trading below 100,000 now. But
Well, we'll
it
go
finally
into
got.
that. There was a great trade last night.
Oh man, was there?
Oh
Was
yeah,
there?
it was. And as we've talked, Bitcoin has got real ranges now for money.
For
But
sure.
we'll get into that. Big news. Probably the top now.
Right. Let's pull up the charts here. There are about 35 different markets that we can trade at Topstep. It's not just the NASDAQ, even though it does present some pretty good opportunities. But to the downside today, we had the Nikkei down 0.93%, cattle down 1.09%, and the Russell, our biggest percentage mover to the downside, at 1.26%. To the upside, we had nat gas up 1.54%, wheat futures up 1.82%, and soybean oil up 2.1% for our biggest percentage mover to the upside. Let's go through our big four. These are the 4 most traded markets at Topstep. And we have crude oil down 0.03%, unchanged. The S&P is down 0.25%. The Nasdaq's still moving around here, down 0.41%, and gold, our biggest percentage mover to the downside in our big four, down 0.82%. Go ahead, coach.
Excuse me.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I just saw that. Congratulations to Kung Fu. Passed the combine, made $1,500 today. Great
Very
job.
nice. Very nice. I'm going to pull up, I think today is a good day to pull up the four up for the equity markets, just to take a quick look at something. We've talked about this before, but sometimes the market that you default to every day may not be the market that's presenting the best trading opportunities. So let's look at the Nasdaq on the top left. We have the S&Ps on the top right. On the bottom left, I'm going to put the Russell, which was our biggest percentage mover to the downside, and the Dow, which was also I think it was honorable mention. I think it was number 4 for our big percentage movers to the downside. Now, I have each one of these charts on. Let's go to a 30-minute to start. There's definitely a way to link these, so I'm going to try to do that. Let's go interval, right? There we go. Hopefully this looks clear to everyone here. Try to straighten these up a little bit. So again, we have the Nasdaq on the top left, the S&Ps on the top right, the Russell on the bottom left, and the Dow on the bottom right. Now, we had the S&Ps and the Nasdaq making new all-time highs, made new all-time highs again today during the pre-market session. I believe we did check above that all-time high somewhere mid-afternoon. Wasn't a lot of convinced buying in either one of these markets, and ultimately we got that sell-off. But early on, in my opinion, the Russell was one that was presenting some decent opportunity. Coach, when you look at these 4 different charts, are you seeing 4 different markets? Are you seeing, if you look at one, is there a clearer opportunity in one over the other? How would you
Um,
approach this?
Whatever's on the bottom left, that was the sell. The- that one's not like the others.
And why is that?
There's this white line that came
What's that white
across
line?
that
What
and
is that
could
white
not
line?
get above that. The 200 bar moving average. So
200
let's
moving
start with
average.
that one.
Let's start with this one. This is the Russell on the bottom left, and I think this is a really good example of. And we talk about it here all the time. There's opportunity in other markets. Identifying a setup that you like and finding the market that presents that setup. Now, we've heard Coach Paul talk about the 200 moving average a ton of times on At the Buzzer. I've learned to look at the 200 moving average on this 30-minute chart from Coach Paul. And in this case, this is the one market that's closest to it. We have the Dow also. I don't think it's a coincidence that these 2 markets moved the most today. So let's look at last night's open in the Russell. Here's the first 30 minutes. Had VWAP, pretty much a flat line. That this was the case. I don't think anyone else in the world was trading anything but Bitcoin last night. And that's where all the volume went in the overnight. So a lot of these markets were flat overnight. But once we got into the regular trading hour session, this one got going pretty early. We can see.
Coach,
Go ahead, coach.
Coach, was well, we've talked about this before. Is we with a big we had a good number today, or a pretty impactful number
Hmm.
at 7:30, and I just looking at that 7:30 number, and frame that out, and
Oops, my bad. Let's see. So that actually ends up being. What are you doing, Jay? That actually ends up being the pretty much that overnight range, coach.
yeah, I just I just noticed that. Um, Very interesting. That selling came early.
It did. Yeah, we can see once that news printed, VWAP's leaving that range. This is that urgency setup we talk about often. Uh, you know, the 30-minute candle that pulled this VWAP down ultimately didn't close outside of it, but we can see how heavy VWAP got, right? There's that 45-degree angle. That's not really 45, it's close. But the market rejecting this range. Now, if we go down to a shorter time frame, I'm going to go to a 3-minute chart on all of these markets now, because we know when we are looking at the equity open, uh, for me, I'm going to go down to a shorter time frame just to see which market is presenting the trade the
Wow.
quickest potentially, or the most defined. And here
Wow.
is 3-minute range in the Russell. Here it is in the NASDAQ. Let's take these indicators off for now. Here it is in the S&P. And I think we're going to do a poll to chat. I don't think I can actually do a poll, so I'm going to ask you all to just put a number in the chat, um, because different market conditions for different people. Uh, of these 4 charts that we have up here, put a 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the chat. Which of these are your favorite market conditions to trade? 1 for the top left, 2 for the top right, 3 for the bottom left, and 4 for the bottom right. Which one would you say, Coach?
Oh, I know my. Actually, bottom right, was that the Dow?
Bottom right is the Dow. Yep.
Mm, I'll go with the Dow.
Yeah,
Got a
I
lot of
do like this
threes and
too.
fours, 3 and
Yeah.
4. I'm with 3 and 4.
We got Yuri with a 2. Yuri with a 2, right? I can see this is range bound market, but pretty wide range, not a lot of overlap. Um, it's maybe a little bit easier to define where the highs and the lows are. We are on a short time frame here. If we zoomed out to a 15-minute, 30-minute, but let's see. Manny 2 Trade says the Dow, Kung Fu. I traded 4 today. So
And past the combine.
and past there we go. Found the market that was presenting the opportunity for you. Nomad Trader Rachel says number 2 as well. Um, I want to do a blind test one day with this, and we'll take off the prices. We'll take, the market off because, hopefully you're not picking the market that you traded and you say, oh yeah, that's the ES. I like that market. Because ideally what we want to identify is which one of these resonates with you the best. And when we get to the end of the day and you've had your best trading day, what does that chart look like? It's not going to look the same for everyone. Coach, before we got on here, we were talking about, both came out profitable today, but it was a fight. I traded the Russell, but I also decided to trade the NASDAQ. Anytime I trade this, I'm fighting for my life to end up profitable. When I trade this, it's usually a lot easier. Usually have a better day. So which one of these looks like a fight to you, chat? And then which one looks like these end up my best days? And then I think the goal is reverse engineer it and find how do we identify that day early on so we can take advantage of it. Go ahead, Coach.
Coach, interesting. Yasmin, 0717. I like 1. Even though an erratic market today, I passed the combine.
Amazing.
That's great. And you probably followed your rules and were disciplined, I'd imagine. So great job.
Yeah. Again, there's a lot of overlap here. It looks erratic, and it probably looks a little bit more erratic because we're on a shorter time frame, right? If we go to a higher time frame, which I think is good to do on range days, maybe not so erratic, right? If we go out to a 30-minute, starts to look a little cleaner. And I hear Hogue talk about these were cash register days on the floor where you just continue to fade the extremes of the range until it breaks. And that looks like the opportunity, right? We hear traders talk all the time about trending markets being hard to get into. Uh, if you can identify the extremes of the range, I think anytime I do it, I have to go with pretty wide stops just to avoid getting wicked out. There's opportunity. And I love the fact that traders can see opportunity in different ways. That's what makes these markets. Uh, but finding the one that presents the best to you and trading that is great. Ultimately, in the Nasdaq and the S&P, we did get somewhat of a sell-off towards the end of the day. I think you said, like you said, Coach. After I think we had a speaker, and then it was the earthquake news as well, uh, and a decent sell off into the close, and going into tomorrow with the big news for the week. Very interesting.
Well, yeah, and I think it was getting tired last night. There was not much movement, and with the next big number, um, there's probably some profit taking.
Yeah, I think it might have been Coach Hoop who I saw in the chat that said, and again, we don't want to try to predict what's going to happen, but Coach Hoop, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he said, this rally into all-time highs feels a lot like that July rally, um, where Coach, I don't know, were we on YouTube at the time? I think we might have been in Discord, but we talked about that rally being hollow as far as volume goes. I saw a headline the other day that the S&P traded the lowest volume, and this is SPY, traded the lowest daily volume since 2005 the other day for a full
Did it
session.
really?
Right.
Wow,
And we're making all-time highs.
really? That's old school. Beware. Very good.
Yeah.
That's making all time highs on 5-year low in volume.
Yep.
That's trading on air. Um,
Right.
but you know, one thing at a time here. We didn't break yesterday's low. I don't think in any of them, did we?
I don't think so. No, we didn't. We did not.
Um,
No, we didn't in any of these. Again, really strong markets. Not trying to predict a, a correction or anything like that. If it happens, it happens. But you're right, Coach. You zoom out far enough, still going up.
maybe Dow didn't. That didn't look like it, but mm, tomorrow's going to be a very interesting day.
It is.
It's one of those. I think if on the sell side, it could get exacerbated.
Mhm. Should we go out to maybe a daily?
Yeah, let's look at it daily.
Looking at the daily here, I'll try to put the moving averages back on this one.
Man, you type fast.
Mavis Beacon, typing classes. Um, we're getting pretty far extended in the Nasdaq above that 20-day moving average. We've seen when we've done that before, and again, these markets are still very strong uptrends. But we day trade. So are these presenting opportunities to take shorts in day trades, or pullbacks to buy the dip? We're getting pretty extended here in the S&P as well. Some room between that 20 moving average. Uh, the Russell pulled back to it today, and the Dow kind of hanging out at these highs as well. Coach, I got these moving averages from you. When you look at these on a daily, what are you seeing?
Well, I just use that as a trend. If
Yep.
it's above it, it's uptrend, downtrend. Um, in the S and P's or in the equities, 90% of the time it's above the 200-day moving average.
Right.
Um, it's when I came to the conclusion: quit trying to sell new highs. We had this discussion, I think, yesterday.
Yeah.
Um, getting the flow, but and it's not just me. I don't. It's not like I came up with that. There are institutions who watch that, and why? I don't know. There's roughly 200 trading days in a year. I think it's like 210. So whatever. They watch it. So do I. Um, but if we go back in time, you can do it your own um, research. It doesn't spend much time under the 200-day moving average.
Right. And we can see very strong markets here still. Pullbacks are natural here, uh, but they are still going up. Anything else on the equity markets that you want to talk about today, Coach?
Um, no, I'm good with that. Just tomorrow will be a big day. This is one of the big numbers now.
Yep.
So as we preach, try not to get out in front of it. Um, let let them let it happen, and then make your decisions. Capital preservation is number one on days like with big numbers like that.
100%. Let's get out of this 4 up view and let's go to gold.
Wow.
Coach, is this could this be considered a bear flag here on the daily?
Yeah. Um, Look at that big sell off.
Yep.
We're still hanging around the 20-bar moving average, but that's under the 50.
Hmm.
Flag, bear flag, or dead cat bounce.
Right.
Um, Look at that. It didn't even get. Did he get 50% of that candle?
Nope. Got close.
Got
Got close.
close. Um, Boy, especially that moving average. We've been watching. It's going to said there's going to be a day where
Get a strong move.
um big strong move. Um, as you've said before, I think it's a it's a day of destiny that it's going to hit the 200 moving average soon. Um, Boy, that feels heavy. Whatever that price is, the low of that, man. If we settle under that, like in a half-hour bar, you could see the rug pulled out from the gold market.
Yeah. So kind of hanging out at that 2650s. We'll call it. That's the even number, whole number around there. Where we, if we look back a couple of days, we found some support in this zone. Uh, but with a big number coming out tomorrow, is that the catalyst to break us out of the zone? We don't know, and it could break either way, could break both ways. But consolidation now for 10 days in gold, uh, and we've seen some pretty big daily moves in gold. It almost feels like we're due for one. Don't want to try to predict when it is, and just going to trade the markets that present themselves to us. And I think today presented a pretty decent short opportunity. If we look at and again, every market was pretty flat for the overnight session, with the exception of Bitcoin. But again, that once that news comes out, and here's the news candle. Let's just frame out the news candle instead. Here's that news candle in gold. Can we consider that the start of the day when the volume comes in and reacts to something? Uh, Really nice opportunity for a sell side here. If you were looking to buy this, right, because we got to look at both sides. Uh, is there, if you're looking at this, coach, I think you probably look at this and say, I'm not trading it.
It's exactly what I'm thinking, and I get seasick.
Right. But if you were looking
I
to buy
see
this,
that, and I get sick.
right. um, to me, it has to happen somewhere near the lows of this range, right? If we just look at the patterns that we have, maybe you could buy off of that 200 moving average. But I look at these moving averages the same way I look at VWAP. If it's a flat line, I probably don't want too many of my trades around it uh, to enter a trade. Maybe if it's, maybe to exit a trade if I'm trading into it. Um, so maybe a decent opportunity to buy here. But if we take the moving averages off, uh, trading around there would be middle of the range. Which
Wow.
feels like a 50-50.
You can paint that any way you want. That's hard to make money in there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Junior Estrella. I trade only gold today. Very good payday. Paid. Well, good on you. I mean, like we said, I'm gonna repeat this. We review and we review and we give things the way we analyze them. Some, it doesn't preclude people from trading their system. A- and if you did, great job. I mean, that to me, just that there's not, if you're not a market maker, that's a hard place to get money. So good job.
We got a question from Casey here. I'm gonna throw this one to you because it's your risk management suggestion. Hey, Coach Paul, can you explain your ATR stop loss and what time frame you use?
Sure. Um, the time frame is relative, whatever time frame you want to use. So let's use what most people are using. Let's just go to the S&P. Okay, now if you see the ATR chart, you can make that bigger, Coach. You can see it breathes. It, and there's higher average true range during the day session than it is at night. So when you're entering the trade, it's good to know what it's another name for volatilities.
Right.
It's so in let's look at the half hour ATR on the opening this morning.
On the open this morning, the half hour ATR was around 3.5 points. So I want to ask you something about that, actually, Coach. It's 3.5 points, but we know we're coming into the most volatile time. Do you
Yep.
think it'd be better if you're trading just the New York session to look at an RTH, a regular trading hour ATR instead?
Um well, there's two ways to do that. You can do a longer term, that's a 14.
Yep.
You could do a 200.
Mm, okay, that tells a completely different story.
The 200 is a little higher because it's going to take in more data.
Yep.
Um Now, with that said, I use whatever it is at that time.
Got you.
Um, but to compensate, well, here now I'm looking at the S&P. I want to buy it. It's in a bull market, 99% of the time.
Right.
Um, so and I'm using just an example here. Let's break it down to the 3 minute.
3 minute. Here we go. I'm gonna try change. I'm gonna change this back to a 14. There we
All
go.
right,
On the 3 minute, on the open, we were right around 1.5.
1.5. All right. So I buy it on the first candle, and this is just an example. So on the close of the first candle, I'm a buyer and I wanted to have a stop. Now, based on the ATR, I don't want to do one average true range. And you may ask why.
Why is that,
You
Coach?
can ask. Oh, thank you.
I got you.
Um, because it's the natural one average true range is a natural, let's call it vibration. It's just naturally going to move that. Let's
Yep.
say I only want to risk inside of that. Well, then I'm going to get stopped out a lot.
A lot.
So if you're ever, one of the things when I first started trading is I want to risk $100 to make 1,000. That's what I want. And the market's not giving that to me, but I'm forcing that anyway. At least I used to. So
Right.
with this, I want to control my risk. So two ATRs is my stop. So, all right. And I
Would
don't,
be about 3 points at that time. Because ATR
mhm.
was, we'll call it 1.5. So 3 points.
Do I get stopped out?
Depends where you are in the queue on this.
Um, as you can see, even if I get stopped out, all right, whatever if it's 150. If it's too much, I can do half that in micros, whatever. It gives me a unit of risk that I'm willing to expose myself to. If Here's the deal, I don't. If I bought, I have no. I don't know. We have no certainty that that market isn't going to drop 10, 20 points
Right.
in a whim. And if you've ever been caught in that, you can go back. You'll go back and go, son of a bitch. Why didn't I just put a stop in? And that that's why it's two ATRs. If I'm going to be wrong, that's the way it is. Um,
Makes a lot of sense to me. You're basing your stop on the market movement. We say all the time that your stops should be based not on your, you know, dollar amount, how much you want to risk, but what's the market telling you, and then you try to fit your account into the market instead of trying to fit the market into your account. And that's your risk budget, right? I'm risking this amount based on the market. The reason I really love the two ATR stop is because it adjusts for the market, right? Remember July, August, the ATR was what twice as big as it normally is.
two and
Um,
three times, yeah.
yeah, so you have to adjust there, and it's a dynamic adjustment where if I say, "Oh, I only want to lose $200 trading the Nasdaq," it might have been a little bit easier today if you had good trade location around those ranges. But you try to lose $200 in the Nasdaq in early August, late July, you might have lost $200 on your trade entry with some of these slippage. So adjusting for market conditions, I think, is a really great reason to use that ATR stop.
Yeah. And if I want a 1-to-1, if it goes up 2 ATRs, then I'm out. If I want 2-to-1, it goes 4 ATRs. Um, but that's the bottom. And I didn't invent it. This has been around for decades. It's a unit of it's a measure of risk unit, and it's used by commodity trading advisors, fund managers. Um, that's how they view their risk. That's their how many bullets they're willing to put to the gun.
Yep.
Um, so that's the bottom line. And if I get stopped out, I at least I have some control of how much I'm going to lose. And you hear me say it a lot. I mean, you have to have a risk budget. And really, if you're losing half your account in one day,
You're not
how,
budgeting properly.
you're not budgeting properly. You might say, well, it's not, I can't do that. Yeah, but then I can't, then I can't make 10,000.
Yeah. Play
Review
up.
that, how it's working.
Right. Absolutely. Uh, Thank you for that, Coach. Let's move
You're welcome.
on. We didn't talk about crude oil yet. Crude oil, very much like gold, pretty range bound, maybe still presenting some opportunities. We talked about the lows and the highs of this range, uh, up near 70, anywhere from 70 to 70 half to the upside, and we'll call it 68 half down to 68 on the downside. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. It looks a lot like the gold chart. Flat moving averages, flat VWAP means, fade the extremes. So anywhere down near these 68s, you're potentially looking for, a place to buy. And again, anything we talk about here is not a suggestion to take a trade, it's for educational purposes only. But if I'm thinking about trade location, if I'm going to trade crude, I'm personally not trading it right now because of this tight range. If we look at this is a dollar range for the New York session, which is pretty tight. Last night did have a pretty nice sell off from that $70 area. Uh, but if I'm looking to trade this, I can't do anything in the middle. My trades have to be near the extremes. And the only reason that is it allows me to limit my risk, right? If I go, let's say I go 2 ATRs on a 30-minute in crude oil here, and I take a trade, uh, I buy it earlier than the low of that range. 2 ATRs at this time was 20 ticks. I'm stopped out before it gets to the low of that range because I'm not trading the market conditions, right? We talked about this a little bit yesterday, putting the whole puzzle together, your trade location, your timing, uh, you know, the market that you're trading. That whole puzzle matters. And in crude, the puzzle looks like wait for the extremes of the range for your opportunities, because anything else in the middle feels a little 50-50.
I have nothing to add to that. I don't. I might not ever trade crude again, but in all sincerity, it's just I don't. I don't even look at it now. Um, there's plenty of oil. It's a
Yeah.
balanced market. It's a commodity. It's designed to be used as the lifeblood of the world economy. It's not like stocks that are designed to go up. Um, so this could go on, and it has it all year.
Yep. Seeing some questions about the ATR. It's just this indicator that I have on the bottom of my charts here. I'm going to remove it and add it back for you guys. Just pull up the indicators, type ATR. It's the average true range indicator, and it's just down here. I personally
You
don't
could,
look at the. Go ahead, coach.
and remember, 14 is the
Default.
default.
I normally don't even have the line up because if you hover over the candles, you can see. Look down here on this bottom left. Actually, it's behind me. Can you guys see that? Can you see the number here? Okay, you
Yeah.
should be able to see it. You can see as I hover over the candles, it's changing. So, like Coach said, if I'm taking a trade in this 30-minute candle here, I want to use the ATR for that time frame. It's 26 ticks in crude oil. So I'm just going to do quick math, multiply by 2, 52. Shout out to public school. And there you go. So you have it from there, and then it changes as the market keeps going. Freddie A says, like the live. I agree with you, Freddie. Let's get those likes up if you like what we're doing here. 54 likes, kind of light. It doesn't cost you anything. So go ahead and hit that like button for us, and we'll continue going. Let's see. Crude oil, Coach, how long are we going to avoid it? Micro Bitcoin.
All right. A surge, boy. So actually, last night while we were talking, and it was what time was that it got over to 200? It was just before the close.
Yeah, just before the close yesterday. This is at 1 p.m. Central.
Yeah. So let's say when we're talking about ATR, and I'm only looking to buy it, I can let's say I buy it over the 200 when it closes above it.
Okay, so we're up here.
Yeah. Now I look at the ATR and I say, okay, I'll risk 2 ATRs if I buy it
Five.
right above the 200.
All right, 10, 1180. 1180. There we go. Stops down there.
And what's the is this micro Bitcoin?
This is micro Bitcoin. Yep.
So what's the value? So 2 ATRs. How much am I willing to risk?
What's 1180, 50 cents? I'm not gonna do that math in my head.
Um,
Let's see.
five. It's just like $55.
Yeah, I think most of us have that in our risk budgets,
So let's
especially for top
times.
set accounts.
Is that 2 ATRs?
Yeah, 1180 was 2 ATRs. I'm pulling up Quantower right now as a
I
cheat
can
code,
tell you right.
unless you got it, Coach.
Go ahead.
It's not a whole lot. I'll say that much.
Here, I can. When it closed above it, I'm risking. Oh, it's a little more. It's about $150.
There you go.
2 ATRs. Now, Does it mean I have to wait for it to get stopped out? No. If it closes back, and it did it a couple times yesterday. It wasn't just a one, this isn't, by the way, this is not 100% trade. I used the two ATRs as a ejection. S- Like the, this is the most wrong I'm going to be.
Right.
If it closes back under the 200, I just get out. But we did catch it this last time, and interestingly, whatever time it was later in the day. And one thing with Bitcoin, it's not like it has an open.
Right.
It's like crude or gold. I mean, um,
24-hour
but
markets.
last night, let's go to our open. The futures are starting to really become a factor in Bitcoin because of its ease of access and its leverage. It's better than ETFs. It's better than trying to keep a coin on your computer, and then your girlfriend throws the computer out and you're digging into landmass to find your $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. Did that guy ever find it? Do you know? It's because
I
it's a
don't think
true
so.
story.
I don't think so. I don't think he did. I don't think he did.
Um, so anyway, taking smaller losses with it's using the ATR is gives you the ability to budget your risk. If you don't use stops, by the way, time will tell. Um, but
Uh,
I strongly suggest using stop every time you put an order in. Um, because like today, what whatever that news came out, if you bought that near that high and you didn't have a stop,
oh
I
yeah,
mean, would it dropped like 10 handles in the S&P in a matter of what, 2 minutes?
2 minutes. It was quick, and yeah,
So anyway, Bitcoin, we started last night. We opened up. We had the first half hour, and let's put a
here it
um,
is. Here,
yeah, let's put VWAP on the first half an hour.
that's that red line, and off to the races.
Interestingly, that held for the day. But what I want to see is this was a concerted effort. Look at the volume on those two bars where it took off.
Oh yeah,
Um, and coach, you've said this before. When you see that kind of move and that kind of volume, can it sustain itself?
yep. Yeah, that's a big key. Uh,
I was
it's a lot.
stunned how fast that happened, and I got to give you credit. I got out like
Mm,
not at the top, but about an hour later. I'm like, and I want to give you that. Thank you,
oh yeah,
because with volume like that, what is he going to continue to get buying volume like that?
right.
Probably not. So that actually, as soon as they stopped buying, look what happened.
Yeah, no, no more momentum. We had, and we talked about this. Dakota and I were actually doing this on slow markets last night. We kind of watched it, and on the spot Bitcoin, we talked about this a little bit. There was 250 contracts sitting at 100,000 even, and we talked. All right, all right. I tried to entertain you. I'm not gonna do this anymore. Uh, we talked about the spot Bitcoin price, 250 contracts sitting at 100,000, and Exactly that, right? When we see the market take out that order, 250 Bitcoin is a lot of money, right? So in order to get through that, you have to have some big pockets that say, yes, I'll buy whatever you're selling there. At that point, we need money to move these markets. Is there still money on the sidelines waiting to buy Bitcoin at these prices? And then if we just think about, the psychology of market participants, coach, if you're holding Bitcoin from 17,000, 20,000, 50,000, MP had it from 55,000, you're selling up here too, adding to that selling pressure where we need buyers to push through it. And at the majors, we're going to see that, right? We'll see that momentum. Some of these are, some of that volume is stops going off from people shorting it and, having to buy it back. Uh, but once that impact is complete, it's like, okay, now where do we sit? What happens here? Do you guys still want to buy it? And a lot of times, exactly what happened here, we come back to the scene of the crime, right? This is where the volume broke out, and a reversion to it. Uh, and the one other thing I'll say, if you didn't watch slow markets last night, and you're an order flow trader or interested in kind of reading order flow, I think that was a really great example. We can give you a timestamp to go and look at. Uh, it was when we were making new highs, right around 9:30 last night. If you watch slow markets around that time, is when we kind of started focusing on Bitcoin. But really great example of how that order flow affects the markets. We hear Hogue talk about icebergs and things like that. I thought that was a really great example of that.
Cool.
All right. Anything else on Bitcoin, Coach?
Um, no, still, but interesting. They came right back down tonight. Let's look at a daily. It needs to rally tonight.
Mm,
Or see that. Look at that candle. How
yeah,
skinny it
that
is. Yeah. Um, we've reached the we've reached the promised land for Bitcoin enthusiasts. Um, but these are all-time highs, and they couldn't hold that. And most of that volume came in that 1 hour.
right.
I'm going to keep my eyes peeled to that one.
Yeah.
Um, I've been a bull this whole time. Um, Only because I'm not bullish. The market is bullish. I'm
Right.
just
I'm buying it because it's going up.
I'm buying it because it's going up. I'm just going with the flow. But it's kind of extended here. Um, be interesting. You talked about MP getting out.
Right.
How many other people, like you said, like, okay, I've had the ride. Let's see what it does. I'll buy the next dip, whatever.
Right.
Um, but that's an interesting candle. That could be what the old school island top, where all of that off. I mean, it only happens at all-time highs,
Hmm.
where all that action just gets sold. And if we break today's low, like you could see some real selling pressure. I'm not saying there is, and this is just something that
Just
I
observation.
watch.
Just observation. Got some questions here. Colin Farrington, what inputs are best to use for VWAP? I've been told I've been using open, high, low, close divided by 4 in session, but notice it's different sometimes than what's on Topstep TV. What do you both use? I'll show you my VWAP settings here. I don't use the VWAP indicator personally because I'm going to anchor multiple VWAPs throughout the session. But the settings for my anchor VWAP are just open, high, low, close divided by 4. And if I use that VWAP indicator, also remember that TradingView charts adjust the VWAP based on the visible range. So sometimes you have to zoom all the way out uh, to get the full picture, and then you can zoom in after that. Uh, but the TradingView charts kind of take into account that visible range. So just remember that. Um, do you ever set
So,
VWAP to the
coach,
pre? Go ahead,
when you
coach.
say visible range,
Hmm.
it's whatever's on the chart.
Correct. Correct.
So we're clear on that.
Yep. And then John Bertone, I have the indicator. It spans across the bottom. What I'm asking is when you measure on your screen with the measuring tool, how is that telling you the ATR? Okay, so I'm using this. So let's see. On the daily on the NASDAQ at this time, the ATR was 294 points. You see this, I'm just measuring this way. You see this value right here? That's the amount of points. So when I measure out that way, and I'm just doing shift, click, and then dragging to get this cursor, I'll just pull it down to what the ATR is, so 273, and then measure it from there. Why divided by 4? Because it's taking into account the whole candle. It's the open, high, low, and the close of the candle. So you have 4 values going into it, and then dividing that by 4. The default setting is high, low, close divided by 4, and it's not taking into account the open. But the open is part of the candle, so why not include the whole thing? Do you ever set anchored VWAP to the previous day's close? So good question. Don't maybe not necessarily setting it to the day's close, but let's look at the Nasdaq today actually. And there was a bounce on the Nasdaq. If we look at 2-day VWAP, and you'll hear Brian Shannon talk about this a lot as well. I'm going to put 2 VWAPs on this chart. First one is here. Oh, put that in the wrong spot. First one's going to be here. And then we'll look at the daily VWAP, today's VWAP, which is here. I'll make them different colors so we can tell the difference. The yellow one is today's, the red one is yesterday's. You can see during, that yesterday's VWAP was a support in the NASDAQ. Go ahead, Coach.
Wow, I didn't. It's just it closed below both of them.
Right. Yeah, we had that pinch kind of range in between, and then when it breaks, we usually get a pretty quick move. So, yeah, we'll anchor to the prior day. Any other markets we want to discuss, Coach? Anything you have on your scouting report? We got about 7 minutes left. Anything you're scouting, anything you're looking for, or other markets that you looked at today that were presenting some opportunities?
No, still Japanese yen, but it's right at 200 moving average where it played around today. I'm gonna look to sell the open if I get some urgency. Other than that, I think nothing on a scouting report.
Got you. Yeah, same here. I think the equities are going to be on my scouting report tomorrow, just after the news. I'm probably not going to do too much tonight. Maybe I'll look at some currencies to see if they present some opportunities. But
Oh,
go ahead.
I forgot Bitcoin.
Oh, there you go.
It goes. I'm marking it yesterday's low.
Mm,
If we get that before, I'm willing to risk 2 ATRs on a half-hour bar. I think
and
that
that yesterday's low price is 985.90. 985.90.
yeah. Huh.
985.60.
Yeah, that's I'll be keeping my eye out on that.
Awesome. We got about 5 minutes left. Let me just check my notes really quick to see if I missed anything. Coach, you got any final words before we go?
Tomorrow, big number. It'd be prudent not to get out in front of it. Wait for it to happen. Let the people who have to trade. Who are those people? Market makers and institutions.
Yep.
You don't have to trade in front of it. Also, market makers, we used to call put their hands down. In other words, if they were 100 lot up traders, if they're 100 lot traders, they might go down to be a 10 lot trader in front of that number. So that's what causes that kind of volatility.
Right.
So why be involved in it? Wait for it to happen, and then make your decision from there. Preserve your capital. You don't have to be, you know, be the general. Don't be the pawn.
Right.
That's it.
Uh, I'm also going to be looking at the treasuries tomorrow. Here's a 30-year, kind of right at that 200 moving average also.
Yeah.
Um,
No, there's
it's a lot to do tomorrow. Gonna be a lot to do tomorrow, it feels like. His Royal says, let's all go touch some grass. Let's go do it. But let me get these plugs out of the way first. Payout Club. If you have taken more than 5K in payouts from Topstep, you are eligible for the Payout Club. I just put the link to that in the chat. You also probably got an email today about changes to the payout policy for Topstep. It's been all the rage on Twitter. You know, people having concerns or saying it's not that big of a deal. The only change is for new XFAs starting tomorrow. So if you start your XFA tomorrow and on, there is a max payout request per XFA at 5K. Max 5K per request. And you could still trade up to 5 XFAs. The only thing is you can only take up to max 5K. Now, a lot of people got upset about that. Coach, you coach a bunch of traders here at Topstep. I love them all the ones that we coach. How many are eligible to take $25,000 out a week that you coach?
I only know one.
And there you go. So sometimes, we hear some 5K per account. Sometimes when we hear some of these changes, like, oh man, things are bad. They're not going well. It might not even apply, right? So, getting into all of that, I personally think is a distraction. It is a change. To me, it's a smart change from Topstep. We're going to see a lot more traders move into live accounts, which I think is great, trading in the live markets. Yep, and it's 5K per payout request per account. And if you are trading at the point where you're making more than 25K a week and you want to continue to pay yourself, I think you're ready to put on the big boy pants, big girl pants, and trade your own money at that point because you've done it. You've done what you're supposed to do. And Topstep, we are moving traders to live accounts and ideally want that relationship to continue. But you've heard MP say it himself, take some of that money, put it in a personal account if you don't like that limit. So,
You know, just go back. I to complain about that is rich. We call a rich man's problem.
it's
Be
funny.
that good that you have rich man's problems.
Exactly. And the rich men, if we want to call them that, the ones I know that are eligible for those payouts, not complaining at all.
No,
Not complaining. Dakota's one of them. Rips is one of them. And you could say, oh yeah, they represent Topstep. They can still get paid that much every week. So changes are happening. Changes are always good. Change also, I'm aware, brings some hesitation and things like that, but all for the better. And I don't know exactly what's going to come out for live accounts, but I think in 2025 you're going to want to be in one because there are a lot of benefits to being in a live account and potentially some more coming up for Top Step traders. So stay tuned. That's all I got. If you want to get on Topstep TV to trade, dropped another link in the chat for you. Trade well, manage your risk. Don't do anything crazy. His Royal is already outside touching grass, so I'm gonna go do the same. Uh,
touching grass or smoking grass.
well, yeah, I mean it is the afternoon, right? It is evening time. Do whatever you got to do to relax. And we will talk to you all tomorrow. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you then.
All right, good. Bye.